Hi, I'm Dave from Boyinaband. Do you feel like a failure? Me too. Today, I thought it would be good for us to completely ignore the fact that I've been gone for like half a year and try and get some perspective on what an actual failure looks like. So join me in this deep dive into the most expensive failures ever. I'm gonna guess there are some like horrendously expensive mistakes that companies have made, like launching products.
Okay, Glass, hang out with the Flying Club.
Google photos of tiger heads.
Probably more than that, there'll be like governments that have collapsed. Yeah, I'm not sure if I can think of something bigger than a government collapsing. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. A regretful sellout for Ronald Wayne. Alongside Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak, I see where this is going. Ronald Wayne was instrumental during the formative years of Apple. Afraid of past experiences and skeptical about the future, Wayne sold his share in Apple for just $800, 11 days after Apple was formed. According to reports, Wayne would have been worth more than $25 billion today. I'm not sure we're gonna find one bigger than that. Cheers for watching, and have a nice day. Jesus Christ, has he ever been interviewed on this? And Apple is the biggest company in the world right now, isn't it? Or is Amazon? Oh, Walmart is. Yeah, that's gotta hurt. One thing I was thinking about when it comes to videos like this, where I'm just researching random crap on the internet. Clearly, I'm not doing a huge amount of delving into making sure the sources are correct. So take everything I say with a huge grain of salt. So I'm inevitably gonna say something really dumb in this video. If you can point that out for me in the comments, then at the end of the next video, assuming I'm not too depressed to make another one,
Here we go, fellas!
And point out all the mistakes that I made in the previous video. So that way, I don't have to stress about going to every tiny little thing which slows down the pacing of these kinds of videos. And also, we're not complete idiots at the end of this. Okay, moving on. Oh, solid meme there. Very good, financesonline.com. Here we go, fellas. React time.
As Apple celebrates becoming the world's first trillion-dollar company, we end tonight with its forgotten co-founder.
Something about that feels brutal. Forgotten. We end tonight with the insignificant, pathetic co-founder.
Now, the man who left Apple with peanuts.
Oh, very good. These business people are spectacular with their humor.
12 days after I'd signed this contract, I had my name taken off the contract.
12 days.
12 days.
After you became one of the founders of the Apple Computer Company.
That's correct.
That guy just yelling at him, 12 days! Do you know how much they're worth?
He gave up his 10% of Apple for just $2,300 because back then, in 1976, Ronald Wayne had his own dreams.
I also knew that I was standing in the shadow of giants. And as a result, I knew I was never going to have a product of my own to develop.
He went on to design slot machines and to deal in stamps and collect antique guns.
Was I very successful at it? Not entirely, but it was fun.
He does have one regret.
That's a pretty good attitude to take. At one point, this was a $1 trillion company. So that would be $100 billion mistake. So someone who could have potentially lost $100 billion, this is their words of wisdom.
Was I very successful at it? Not entirely, but it was fun.
He does have one regret. That copy of the founding document is just that, a copy. In the 1990s, he sold the original for just $500. In 2011, it was auctioned for $1.3 million. I'm looking at all these computers here. I don't see the name Apple.
No, I don't own an Apple product.
I don't blame your friend.
Not even an iPhone?
Not even an iPhone.
To be fair, me either. He seemed to take it reasonably well. I suppose he's had quite a lot of time to come to terms with that kick in the teeth at the end there, though. That hurt. Pretty high up there contender for one of the biggest mistakes. Isn't there a similar one to that for like the guy who decided not to sign the Beatles? Sign the Constitution. No, the Beatles. Yeah, this is probably not going to be $100 billion worth, but it's still one of those pretty cringy, painful ones. With that airy dismissal of the Beatles, supposedly directed 50 years ago this month at the group's manager, Brian Epstein, Dick Rowe of Decca made himself unwittingly but enduringly synonymous with catastrophic commercial misjudgment. That's a little bit of an intense way to phrase it, but he might be honorary president of an unenviable club that includes all the publishers who turned down a book about a boy wizard. Of course, so there's the people who turned down Harry Potter, the people who turned down the Beatles. We did open pretty strong with not retaining your shares in Apple. But when the first thing that it says in your Wikipedia page is, he's historically presented in popular musical history as the man who did not sign the Beatles, That's gotta sting. He is also attributed as having said, "Not to mince words, Mr. Epstein, but we don't like your boys' sound." I think that's a kind way to put it, just straightforward. I've never been a big Beatles fan. I would have probably missed out on that as well. The Wall Street Journal estimated the Beatles made $50 million in record sales in the US alone in 1 year. Yeah, that's a lot. 10 of the worst decisions ever made. Oh my god. Yeah, this is perhaps a little too intense. Not so much expensive, but horrific. I learned what thalidomide is because of Slipknot. Educational music. There we go. That taught me a lesson. Thanks, Corey. Oh, what? Mars turning down the chance to be an ET? Bruno Mars? Was he alive then? What the hell? Wait, the Candy was going to be an ET? Mars didn't see the profit potential of casting their Candy as a supporting character to a little boy and an alien puppet. But Hershey sure did. Holy crap. Because Hershey got product placement of their sweet in E.T., the sales of their Reese's Pieces jumped 65% that June. Jesus. And they just saw this weird looking thing and thought, no way is anyone going to care about this film. The Titanic. Yeah, that's a relatively expensive one. $7.5 million US dollars Titanic cost to build. Spectacular grammar. Would be roughly equivalent to $174 million today. Considering cruise ships cost $1.5 billion to build now, it would seem like it was a relative steal. Napoleon invading Russia. Oh, wars. Wars will be expensive mistakes. I suppose when you're calculating how expensive a mistake a war is, you need to calculate the value of a human life. More than 600,000 men marched towards Russia, but just a few more than 100,000 were left fighting. Value of a human life. $9.1 million. $4.55 trillion mistake. Just based on the lives lost. Who was it that said that human lives are worth that much? The Environmental Protection Agency.
EPA! EPA! EPA!
We're just going to take it for a fact that that must definitely be the correct value for a human life and assume that's a $4.55 trillion mistake there from Napoleon. But that's not the most deaths that there ever has been. That would be like Chairman Mao, wouldn't it, in China? But like, were Chinese people... Okay, this is just talking. Bear with me. Were Chinese people as valuable then as the French people were invading Russia there? Like, did they have them as much production potential? Because that's definitely the only way to value a human life. Maybe these Frenchmen weren't as valuable as all that. Could be quite a cheap mistake, accepting the Trojan horse. Yeah, hard to really compare with that. In April 1846, a group of about 90 pioneers in about 20 wagons followed brothers Jacob and George Donner westward from Illinois to California. The California gold rush wouldn't be for another 2 years, and the Donner Party, inexperienced in the wilderness, was headed into uncharted territory. They began their journey on the California Trail, a known wagon train route west, but decided to try a shorter alternate route. Because of freezing temperatures and rough mountainous terrain, the shortcut they had hoped for turned out to be long and deadly. The Donner Party is still well known today, although we might not know all the specifics of their journey. What they're best known for, though, is the question of whether they engaged in cannibalism for survival. Ow. Yeah, cannibalism isn't great. However, it's not 500,000 deaths bad. So I don't quite understand why you've put it at number 2 here, how stuff works. That was a pretty bad decision of you. Suppose it's relatively appropriate. Okay, prohibition. Ooh, that's interesting. Like, what was the financial cost of prohibition? How much did it cost for them to try and stop it? Like, all the costs of crime, all the costs of all these criminal syndicates popping up, all the cost of taxes they weren't getting on the products. Man, they had some good style back then, didn't they? So making alcohol illegal cost the federal government a total of $11 billion just in lost tax revenue. And that's not including all the money they had to spend enforcing it. What the hell? In New York, almost 75% of the state's revenue was derived from liquor taxes. People drank so much back then. That was a more expensive mistake than the Apple dude made. Oh no, it wasn't worth more. It was only 11 billion in lost tax revenue, whereas that guy could have lost 100 billion. Okay, this is nothing. We've seen a few promising things. I'm feeling a bit better about myself, but perhaps we're not thinking in the right kind of direction. I think it's time for us to look in different areas. Jesus Christ, these frickin' titles. 10 scientifically impossible places that actually exist. And they're not scientifically impossible, are they, mind-boggler?
Unless, of course, we're talking about some kind of oops near a nuclear reactor.
Ronald Wayne did an oopsie.
Battlefield did an oopsie. The Game Awards did an oopsie. But
Ronald Wayne
made the biggest oopsie. Oh my gosh.
The Baltic Ace was moving with a cargo of 1,417 cars. It was here, on the high seas, that the ship collided with the Cypriot container ship the Corvus J and got a hole in it. A few minutes later, it tilted.
I'd be tilted after that.
They sank.
Sorry.
The Corvus J stayed afloat and took aboard the survivors of the sunken vessel.
These little graphics on the fish there. How do you crash giant super containers? Don't you see them? I mean, it's not like an iceberg where it's hidden under the water. And surely they make sound.
Imagine this. You're building a huge space observatory.
This is kind of hard to imagine. Let's see their big finale. Come on, I want to feel good about myself. I didn't make this mistake. Here we go.
When the walkie-talkie skyscraper was built in London, it stood out among other high buildings for its unusual mirror design and a shape that resembles a walkie-talkie. But soon, people realized that the southern side of the building reflected the sunbeams, literally burning out on a 30-meter long area, like a huge lens. The concentrated light beam reached a temperature of almost 70 degrees Celsius, an absolute record in natural conditions. The air doesn't reach that temperature anywhere on Earth. The skyscraper became even more famous when a car owner inadvertently parked his Jaguar on the southern side of the walkie-talkie. Imagine the surprise of the businessman when he came back and saw his favorite car melting down. The skyscraper can easily melt all sorts of objects on the street. Cars, bicycles, furniture, and a new cafe down the street. The strangest thing is that the creators of this expensive building, which cost about $260 million, somehow didn't think that it would turn into a Death Star.
Oh my god. You'd think one of them would have done the frickin' burning the ants thing as a child. They've got to be sociopaths and they're working with that much money, surely. Thank you for the insight, Mind Warehouse. Misplaced comma in contract costs $1 million. A contract dispute between Rogers Communications and Bell Alliant was settled after it emerged that the document contained a misplaced comma that changed the grammatical meaning of one of the clauses. This allowed Bell Alliant to cancel it with just a year's notice rather than 5 as had originally been intended, costing Rogers Communications $1 million. $1 million for a single comma. Susan Boyle has the correct expression there. I don't think that was the most expensive mistake a comma caused. Apollo 13. That's exactly what I wanted to know. Venezuela. That's one that could be a more expensive mistake. Like a hyperinflation of currencies. The typo that destroyed a NASA rocket. This is it. On July 22nd, 1962, the Mariner 1 sat idly on its platform, ready to make history. But when the rocket embarked, it was clear there'd be no cause for celebration. Less than 5 minutes into the flight, it exploded, setting back the US government setting back the US government $630 million in more modern dollars. And the root for this disaster alone omitted hyphen. Yeah, that's probably the most expensive spelling mistake. What the hell? Banner Travel Services, a travel agency from California, placed an advertisement in an edition of the Yellow Pages informing customers of its specialization in exotic destinations. Unfortunately, this came out in the ad as erotic destinations, and the ad agency sued the printing company for a staggering $10 million. That can't be real. I feel kind of weird typing this. Gloria Quinnan claims a typographical error in the telephone directory scared off most of her elderly clientele when the word erotic appeared instead of exotic to describe her travel agency. We offer exotic travel, like tours up the Amazon, but nothing erotic, she said. I worked a long time to build my professional reputation, and now I'm getting a lot of crank calls and heavy breathers. $10 million suit. That seems a little excessive. And maybe some of the tours are erotic? That may have got her extra business, who knows. Oh, losing a lottery ticket. Throwing away a $181 million lottery ticket. Ouch. Yeah, these websites are gross. Clawing in to try and stay alive. But yeah, this video is sponsored. 25 of the biggest failed products from the world's biggest companies. Here we go. So I've done some pretty crappy videos. Get some perspective. Oh, how to dance to 10 music genres. Okay, Kelsey's great. However, this may not have been the wisest move for me. That's a good joke. Ugh. Yeah, an edit is not going to save the cringe there. Oh my god. Yeah, I can't watch this. Alright, so I've made some spectacular ideas. Oh, inventing words. Very clickable title. Let's see some companies that have done something a little bit worse. And Newton is held up as an example of Apple's bad old days before it was the world's most valuable company. Forbes says the Newton PDA flopped for a number of reasons. Its price started at $700. It was 8 inches tall. Its handwriting recognition was so bad that a classic Simpsons episode made fun of it.
Take a member on your Newton. Beat up Martin.
Apple eventually turned the mobile tablet market on its head with the iPad. Oh, Apple made the iPad. How about that? Learning something here. Oh, I remember the Virtual Boy. Yeah, VR wasn't quite at the place where it is now. Nintendo's Virtual Boy was an ambitious push into a burgeoning new technology. Let's compare. Versus...
Going through the show. Yeah.
I just can't believe people...
Yeah, can't understand why it didn't do better. Alright, how about government mistakes? Let's end this on, like, what might actually be the most expensive mistakes. God, the price of gold in Germany after the First World War. I remember hearing a podcast where they talked about the worst case of, like, a country's currency just dying was in Turkey. Jesus Christ, prices doubled every 15 hours. Hungarians burn money to keep warm.
Of these shredded currency briquettes are similar to brown coal. So they are pretty useful for heating in places where it is a problem to find fuel.
When a country keeps printing its own money, as I understand it, eventually you get hyperinflation and the country's value goes lower and lower until you get frickin' Hungarians burning shredded money to stay warm. Jesus Christ. So yeah, perhaps the winner of this is the $100 trillion bill from Zimbabwe.
This happens to be a real $100 trillion bill. It and the other bills were bought.
It's a nice water buffalo on the back of that $100 trillion bill.
In November of 2008, there were 6.5, 10 to the 21st% inflation.
Okay, I feel like we've looked through a lot. What's the lesson for today? We may have made some mistakes. We may have wasted some opportunities. I'm projecting. At least we didn't hyperinflate the Zimbabwean economy. But you know what isn't a mistake? Today's sponsor.
Sue me mass end, mate. I just knocked over one of your fucking lights and now the scene will look like it was recorded on a totally different day.
Hello, Davo.
Mate, I got you a new sponsor.
Who's the sponsor?
Fucking Skillshare, mate. That site with a fucking bunch of creators all learning and teaching and stuff.
Oh, sweet. I actually did one of their courses recently.
Mate, can you let me finish? I actually did one of their courses recently and I wanted to show off a bit. Mate, do you want to see my fucking calligraphy?
Sure. Of course you took calligraphy.
Ta-da!
That's surprisingly well done.
Of course it is. Their classes are fucking mint. Look, log in. Oh, you've got fucking premium membership already. Perfect. That gives you unlimited access to join anything on here.
Yeah, I did the annual subscription and it wasn't even $10 a month.
Ah, here we go. Fucking Kimberly Strack here is a fucking badass, mate.
Maybe it'd be more relevant for this particular channel if I show a course I did.
Okay, mate. There really is so much choice because there's over 25 classes.
I think it's actually 25,000 classes.
Yeah, that's over 25.
Sure. I just did this course on Understanding Machine Learning by Christian Heilmann, who's a guy who works for Microsoft. It gave me some useful starting points for what kind of tools exist at the moment. They've got another course on there going into the more specific programming side.
Whether you want to fuel your curiosity, creativity, or even career, Skillshare is the perfect place to keep you learning and thriving.
Why did you interrupt me? I was helping you.
Sorry, I thought you was finished.
No, I was trying to give a relevant example to my audience.
Mate, don't you do music? I thought you did music. Do you do music?
Yes, I do music.
Then you should show them the one about my mate Young Guru about mixing music.
Hang on, this guy mixed for Jay-Z and Eminem. You're mates with him?
Yeah. So if you want to join more than 7 million creators learning with Skillshare, the first 500 people to use the link in the description will get a 2-month free trial. So join with my link, school.fucking-davo.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I've fixed your light. It'll look like it was before now. So you can just continue as if I didn't break in. Okay.
Not gonna lie. This felt like a bit of a mess, but I just haven't recorded a video in a while, so I thought I'd try. One of the things that was holding me back from doing these kinds of videos is that I will inevitably say something wrong and stupid, and I hate the idea of saying things that are wrong without clarifying that. If you can point out in the comments the things that I've said that are incorrect, then at the end of the next video, assuming I do make a next video, I can go through those and we can try and be a little more correct each time. Also, what videos would you like to see next? This was kind of like, I don't know, I just picked topics that I think are slightly interesting. If there are some that you think I might find slightly interesting, let me know, amongst all of the horrific things I got wrong. Cheers for watching, and have a nice day.